On the vol side, realized vol grinding its way higher into around the 50 kind of level on Bitcoin. And then looking at ETH, similar story, grinding up to around 80. Now that, we've been chopping around, testing key supports, we've been pretty volatile. Short dated implied vols did explode higher. Front end was up near 20. And then the end of the month expiry was up closer to 10 points. That has taken carry back to around neutral as implied vol has jumped to close that gap with realized vol, as it had tried to preempt a kind of normalization, which never came. So then implied jacked back higher again. Price action versus implied ranges. You can see steady trend lower, testing either end of the implied range, but respecting it for the most part, apart from a couple of days there on the downside on Bitcoin and 1 day there on Ethereum. So overall, respecting the ranges that have widened out and trending lower. Obviously, we're at a huge inflection point in BTC after wiping out this entire years of gains, getting back below that 95K level. Really need to see if these institutional investors that have piled into the space, whether they've got any staying power, right? That's what we will need to find out. We have started to see outflows from the ETFs of about $4 billion. And, are these investors going to say, you know what, crypto is just too volatile for me, get me out, right? So that remains to be seen. Looking at term structures, you can see we have flipped into inversion on both assets. No big surprise there. All of the bid there in the front end as described. On the time series, you can see into the weekend, as always, we had gone into a steep contango. We have come out of that with the front end roaring. But usually that front end doesn't hold a bid for too long. And we do revert lower. We have obviously got NVIDIA earnings. We've got non-farm payrolls, which might keep a little bit to the front end. And then towards the end of the week, the weekend is where we normally see that pressure in the front. So that's probably what we're going to see again. Looking at skew, where we got to about -10 on put skew on BTC, but have bounced to around -7. We've been around -7 as well on Ethereum. So both the short end skews showing put premium of similar amounts in both assets. You can see that here in the term structures going into a steeper contango with that front end there at -7-ish. The entire BTC curve is still input premium as it has been for a while. No change. Some persistent protection buying and call selling coming in on Bitcoin. Obviously, these institutional types doing those sort of trades against their longs. And then the Ethereum curve flipping into call premium as we go through sort of Jan into March. That's where that long end bid for call skew has not gone away in Ethereum, despite the bad price action. That might change if we break 2,800. I think 2,800 is a big inflection point for Ethereum. If it can't stay above that, then it really calls into question the entire bull market. And I could see long end call skew evaporating basically, right? So that's my thought there. On the relative value side, we can bring up the chart here on ETH BTC. ETH BTC was in that big downtrend for a long time. It threatened to break it, as you can see here. Did threaten to break it, failed, then chopped around that zone, that kind of downtrend resistance for ages that had become support, has now thrusted below it. But again, not really made too much room on the way down, also coinciding with the 200-day moving average here. So kind of tightening up in this range. If we pop back above it, the bull market could be on again. But for now, it hasn't made up its mind, this chart. And the recent weakness has been more Bitcoin-led, which is why we haven't seen a big lurch lower in the relative value there. Vol spread-wise, we did see a little pullback there in the front. We're still at sort of 28, 29, but then as we go out to the first month, we are down to around 26 vols. Still a healthy vol spread between the two, but, has been drifting lower because BTC caught more of a vol bid this week than ETH did. Skew-wise, both of them, as we've already shown, running at around flat in the front end, but obviously the back end skew very much shifted towards ETH calls. And then the trade idea for me that I've just added, I've rolled, as I mentioned in the Discord, I have rolled some of my protection. In fact, I've rolled all my protection from November into December, and I've restruck things lower down to kind of monetize some of the in-the-money puts that I had on BTC. But in terms of adding length, given where the market is, I think a really nice defensive way to add length, if you're long already, but you kind of want to top it up, but you don't want to get leveraged on your longs and you want to have limited premium outlay for that top up, I think call ratios look really decent on Ethereum. Something around the 30 delta, 15 delta call ratio. So it's a headline 0 delta trade, 1x2. You can get into that to December expiry. You can get into that around $20. You get a 500 point wide call ratio. I'm not saying it's going to max out, and you would never really run it till the death anyway. But if it did, it's 25-1 payout, right? Which is insane for something like that. So I think given where vols are, if we get a bounce to anywhere in the mid 300s, that Ethereum vol has got lots of room to come in. We've got time decay we'd be earning, basically fast forward 3 weeks with the market anywhere near 3,600. This trade could easily have doubled or tripled in value. And I don't think that's a bad trade and a bad way to top up some longs right here without taking a load of risk if this thing wants to crack lower and actually fall out of bed, right? So that's the way I would do it on the long side via call ratios. All right, I'm going to leave it with you there for your crypto update this week. I'll catch you back here next week. Cheers.
Hi everyone. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.